All right, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And thank you all for joining us this evening. Michelle, could you call the roll, please?
Dennis.
Here.
Harold.
Here.
Hollenbaugh.
Here.
Musgrave.
Here.
Odoricio.
Here.
Phipps.
Here.
Robinette.
Here.
All right, the minutes from our March 3rd meeting were distributed for your review. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
We have 2 items for correspondence this evening. The mayor is requesting confirmation of 3 appointments to the Wood County Transportation District. The appointments are for Megan Newlove, Mike Rywalski, and Brian O'Connell to serve through March 31st, 2027. These appointments are effective April 1st, 2025.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the mayor's appointments?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your service. Anything else?
We have one more received from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control were 2 applications for Kaiseki LLC, 1616 East Wooster Street, Unit 10, for a D3 liquor permit and for a D2 D2X liquor permit. Records were requested.
Okay. Is that it for correspondence?
That is all.
All right. That brings us to lobby visitations.
Okay, first of all, we have Anna Danzisen, hopefully I didn't kill that, and Rihanna Tuttle.
If you could please give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Danzisen.
And my name is Rihanna Tuttle.
We are both first-year students at Bowling Green State University, where we reside on campus. We are here tonight on behalf of the C. Raymond Marvin Center for Student Leadership and Civic Engagement at Bowling Green State University to promote an upcoming community initiative that has been made possible through grant funding from the All-State Foundation.
On Sunday, April 6th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., BGSU students, faculty, staff, and local residents will participate in a Spring Day of Service event, a collaborative effort to enhance and beautify neighborhoods in Bowling Green. This event is presented by the C. Raymond Marvin Center for Student Leadership and Civic Engagement, Bowling Green Save Our Neighborhoods Group, and the Rotary Club of Bowling Green, Ohio. It is being planned and implemented by a student-led committee of 7 undergraduate students, which we are a part of.
Our committee has publicized this event in a variety of ways in efforts to gain the interest of local homeowners who may need assistance with outdoor improvement tasks such as mulching, plant trimming, spring cleanup, weeding, raking, and planting. We've talked on the morning show with Clint Corp, hung flyers around downtown BG, presented to the BG Rotary Club, and sent our digital flyers to churches, food pantries, and BG News.
This event holds meaningful significance beyond performing simple yard work tasks. BGSU is a public university for the public good, meaning our endeavors on campus extend beyond obtaining a degree. As students, we're given the opportunity to be a pivotal part of creating public good, whether we create initiatives of our own or join campus organizations. We strive to bring purpose and passion to countless communities.
As Falcons, we feel inspired to make a difference in our community both on and off campus. This moved us to participate in planning an event that will reach beyond the borders of campus and invest in local neighborhoods. Our goal with the 2025 Spring Day of Service is to unite the Bowling Green community by bringing students and local residents together. We hope that through compassionate and helpful interactions, the BG community will flourish as a place of public good. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac Izumba.
We have Eric Bucks next.
Thank you. Hi, Council. I'm here to speak about the, what's item D on the council agenda for the amending the zoning map. Some of you were here when I spoke earlier. Anissa Miller has a request before the city
Could
council.
you give us your street number again?
I'm sorry, thank you, my bad. I live at 132 North Maple here in Bowling Green, and my property shares a backyard fence with the 416 West Wooster property, and that's why I'm speaking. It'd be a typical kind of not in my backyard kind of point that I'm making. When I first met Anissa, when we first moved to the neighborhood, she introduced herself and said, "Boy, we're glad you bought that house because our property had briefly been a rental." And she said, "I don't want to see that turn into a rental." And so, yeah, now the shoe's on a different foot. She'd like to rehab that property, and turn it into a multifamily two-unit building. I want to say, I think earlier there was some discussion of her trying to profit off of this, and I know she's in a tough spot. I know there's probably the not long-term dollar signs in her eyes of profiting. She may not be able to profit. Given the historic nature of that home, the footprint of it, I get that. I just know myself. In this case, I understand wanting to preserve a historic building that has significance to the community, and I'd say mission accomplished. Right now, she's shorn up the roof. My understanding is there is no mechanical, much of anything going on in that building right now. I imagine some of us in the audience or some of you on council might have a detached garage where we don't necessarily run a furnace or run plumbing. And if the heat went out, maybe pipes wouldn't freeze. I hope that building's in good shape because I don't see a compelling reason right now why council has to act on this amendment today. I get that she would like you to, but if the property's not going anywhere, if it has a high quality roof on it that I'm going to guess is probably, barring climate change, going to stand for 10 years or maybe more, why act today? Okay, what's the rush? What's the emergency? My other concern with this, besides just turning into a rental, is not at all with Anissa Miller. She's my neighbor. I don't like speaking out against what she wants. I worry about the next person. She's gonna, I'm sure, try to be a very responsible landlord once she gets that property where she can rent it out. I bet she'll do a good job. I don't worry about that. I worry about the next person. We know we've got landlords that are great in Bowling Green, and you've certainly on city council heard a number of people saying we should do something about all the rest of them, right? And that's my concern. None of us are getting any younger. And I worry what comes next when Anissa decides that she's had enough of being a landlord. That's my concern on this. Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, thanks.
Tom Botsberger.
Good evening again to some of you. My name is Tom Votsberger. Lived in Bowling Green since 1959, practiced law here for almost 50 years. Address 521 North Maple Street, Bowling Green. I gave a presentation before the committee or subcommittee of council, and I won't run through all those remarks. I think Mr. Harold was here. I'm not sure if the rest of you were, other than the.
We were all here.
Were you all here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then I won't bore you with what I said before. I'd just like to reiterate a couple things. And Anissa is back. She ran her brother home, but she's back now. This is a difficult decision for you. I recognize that. We discussed that from the very beginning going into this. Tough choice has to be made. I don't think there's any dispute amongst most of the people here about preserving our local historic buildings. I think everyone's in favor of that. I mentioned before the edifice of this building. Thank goodness that was done. The city building, or rather the police station, that was renovated. That was controversial. I was around back then. I don't know how many of you were. That was an expensive renovation, could have been torn down, done differently, saved money. I honestly don't believe that the quality of this neighborhood is going to be disturbed by what's being proposed. It's not going to add that much traffic. It's not going to add congestion. It's not going to add noise problems. The rest of that. Life will go on exactly as it is now in that neighborhood. I can assure you of that. It will not be changed if you vote favorably on this ordinance. The other thing that I did feel compelled to mention in the committee session was this is not being done for any kind of financial gain. The price of this property, the acquisition, was probably, I don't know, 5, 6 times what it should have been. Anissa bought it, motivated to renovate it, use it for the public good, tried to offer it to university, no takers, no one else in town wanted to purchase it, couldn't get accomplished what she originally intended to, switched to a different idea, that is, continue to save the building, but renovate it for a housing space, make some purpose of it. The alternative here is tear down the building. Tear it down, then that'll be a vacant space. She may sell it to Dunn's, she may not. Some other kind of structure will go up. There's absolutely no restriction on not building a building which is in keeping with the architecture in that community. You could put up a very modern structure there that would be totally unlike anything that exists there now. She does not want to see that happen, but maybe that will be the alternative for her. In terms of why do this now, it's been there for 30 years in its present condition. Now is a good time to do it rather than shove it off into the future. I very much respect Mr. Drain and the ideas that he has with Song, and they spent a considerable time working hard with council. Council did a wonderful job in 2023 enacting the present zoning code, but his idea of hold this off and make a change to the zoning code, I don't think it's realistic either. The time is now, I believe, to decide on this property, and Anissa can move in whatever direction she chooses to do after that. Very much appreciated Mr. Harold coming to the property yesterday to view the interior. The interior is not as in bad a shape as has been suggested here. Sean could address this, but the framing is in good shape. Floors need replaced. There's an attempt to salvage a very ornate staircase, fireplace, and some other parts of it. If it can be renovated into the type of structure that she's envisioning, there are going to be 2 families that will be benefited by very nice housing accommodations. I understand Ms. Dunapace's concerns and some of the other people that have expressed concerns. I don't think this is going to set a precedent. I don't think any of you will ever in your lifetime see somebody walk in here with similar acquisition costs and similar renovation costs asking you to approve something that is going to be financially deleterious for them. You will never see another person come in and make a request under this type of situation. She ought to be commended, I think, for attempting to do this. I disagree with Mr. Drain. This is not a waste of anybody's time and money and effort. Our system allows for this. It's built into the system. I would agree with Rachel that, and I looked at it, the standard of review for the zoning board of appeals on variances is pretty specific. I went back and tried to find what is the applicable standard in this situation. It's pretty vague. Common sense, as Ms. Donapace mentioned, I guess that's part of it, but I think it goes beyond that. It's a hard call. I don't envy your decision. Somebody's going to be disappointed here. Somebody's going to be happy. At any rate, thank you for the consideration. I think Anissa, would you like to make any comments, or John? Any questions of me? Or thank you.
No, thank you.
Sean Brennan.
Good evening. Sean Brennan, 208 Eberly Avenue, longtime resident. Obviously, you're all here. I just heard that. So you heard everything, all the presentations before. Just a couple points I did want to make is, with Heather's report, the project and the rezoning meets the 7 BG principles. And to me, it is the best adaptive reuse of this property. This property needs to be saved, and it's really the way to do it. I will point out in someone's earlier presentation, they mentioned about retaining a single-family home. We learned tonight that the property was not built until 1888, which is considerably later than what was originally thought, which means this property was a single-family home for about 33 years. It's been a non-conforming use, or it's been a hospital, nursing home empty for 90 years. It's not a single-family home. But I appreciate all the efforts. As Tom said, I don't envy the decision. But thank you very much for your time and what you put in.
Thank you.
Anissa Miller.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, that concludes lobby visitation.
All right. That brings us to the introduction of new legislation, of which we have none, which is unusual. Official reports, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. Just one item that I'd like to mention. Earlier this week, I attended the annual meeting for the Bowling Green Community Development Organization. Katie Thompson and Jenny Bowers did a great job of presenting this event, and there were more than 200 people present at the event, filled the room at Stone Ridge to the point where management just would not allow any more people in there. I think people were turned away. When we look for signs of positive momentum in our community, I think that this is one of those signs that we can point to. Katie can tell you, and she has told you herself, that there is significant interest in economic development in Bowling Green. And I think that does demonstrate that our community is on an upward trajectory. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to Katie for all the work that she's doing at economic development, and for, really everybody else that's involved in business attraction, business retention efforts. The administration works really hard at that. Lori Treader, Brian O'Connell. It's a team effort. And again, I think that this is reflective of positive momentum that we should all be proud of, and we need to continue to build on that. So again, Katie, thank you for your hard work. It was a really impressive meeting. A lot of people, local businesses from a pretty wide geographical area in this region. So people in other parts of the state, people of this area, are definitely noticing what's happening here in Bowling Green. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. That's all I have, subject to any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for the mayor this evening? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
Good evening. It was a challenging day here at the City of Bowling Green in that we had a connectivity outage due to equipment failure that resulted in our phone system being down and some of our other systems as well. We want to stress that this was equipment failure. The equipment was actually end of life, so end of life that we had already planned its replacement for April 1st. And the equipment was on site, so we were able to move that installation up. It is still ongoing, but we want to also note that there was no data loss as part of this connectivity issue. And we do think that it has been mostly restored as of right now, but we will have work ongoing tomorrow to get all of our areas back into compliance. So we appreciate everyone's patience, particularly as citizens were trying to reach us. We were able to work with customers, and certain systems were still working, or we were able to make adaptation to serve the citizens, and the police division was not impacted, fortunately, by this connectivity issue. With that, any questions for me, because I have a special guest tonight to talk about some road projects?
Any questions for Ms. Treader?
All right, well, I'm not going to limit you to road projects, Brad. I apologize. This is Brad Holman, who you've heard before, our city engineer, and he has some updates for you.
Thank you, Lori. I guess the first project I wanted to talk about is the one that didn't quite get finished up last year, which was the waterline project. We ran into cold weather and they could not pour concrete. So they're going to come back here in the next, they wanted to try to come back this week. We pushed them off another week just to kind of see. We want to make sure that we don't put road salt down on new concrete because that has a bad reaction and can chip away and spall easily. So we're hoping that we're going to look at the long range forecasts and make sure that we don't have any or more salt application. But they'll be back here in the next couple weeks or so to start finishing up that area from like Ada Avenue north up to Ordway. So we'll get that concrete trench patched and get ready for the next project, which is the South Main paving project that is currently out for bid right now. We're going to open bids for that not this Thursday, but a week from Thursday. So hopefully we get some good bids there. So that project will involve a mill and fill on South Main from Ordway down to Route 6. I went over this last fall, but I'll go ahead and rehash because there's a lot of stuff into this project. So that'll have mill off the asphalt. We'll go down to the concrete base and we'll fix any joints that are bad and get those repaired. We're going to install new curb on east and west side of South Main from Gypsy Lane to Napoleon. So that curb that's kind of non-existent now, we'll have a 6-inch curb there and it'll look really nice when that's done. We also are going to have a dedicated left turn lane at Napoleon, so northbound and southbound. So right now where you kind of have to wait for traffic to make that left turn, we're getting another 12-foot lane in the middle there. We had to acquire some right of way. So we'll have that lane to get into now when we make that left turn at Napoleon. The traffic signal will be upgraded. So right now it's just an old span wire. It's the last span wire left in the city. We're going to replace that with a steel pole and mast arm and upgrade that intersection, get some pedestrian heads, walk, no walk signs that are not on all four corners of that intersection. We're also adding 2 pedestrian hybrid beacons between Gypsy Lane and Napoleon. The pedestrian hybrid beacon is what's out in front of the Stroh Center, the blinking crosswalk that stops traffic, gives them the red light, and then allows pedestrians to safely cross the road. We're putting one in at Circle K, and then we're doing the other one down by Aldi. So we did a study and showed that pedestrians were crossing pretty heavily in those 2 areas. So that's where we're going to put those 2 pedestrian hybrid beacons. And then finally, we're also going to have a shared use path on the west side of the road from Gypsy Lane to Napoleon. It'll be an 11-foot path. And so we will be removing some of the sidewalk to make room for that path. But we actually have plenty of right-of-way on that west side, so we didn't have to acquire any for the path itself. The next project that's kind of been ongoing here this winter is the Wooster Maple Pedestrian Hydro Beacon. So we have the foundations are in. We're still waiting for the poles to arrive. Those were ordered, I believe, last October. And they told us they would be here in March. So here we are, and we're still waiting. So hopefully we'll get those in and get those here done this spring. And my last project I was going to go over was we had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor for the pickleball courts at the community center. They plan to start that here within the next month. So, and then the completion date for the courts is the end of June. So we're hoping for the courts to be done for like a July 4th timeframe. We're also adding lights to the court. Same thing, the poles are a long lead item, so the lights will probably be the last thing that get installed. So we may have to fight some people off the pickleball courts, but it'll be pretty exciting when that's done. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Brad this evening? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
City Attorney, Mr. Brown.
Good evening. No report.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? All right. Public Infrastructure Director, Mr. O'Connell.
No report unless you have questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. O'Connell this evening? Okay. Brings us to council committee reports. Are there any council committee reports this evening?
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I'll just note that the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee held the required public hearing on Ordinance 9260 immediately before our meeting. I believe y'all were in attendance.
Any-
Mr.
anything?
President,
Yep.
just a heads up, the Finance Committee will meet before our second meeting in April, on April 21st at 6:30 PM for the purpose of receiving the first quarter 2025 review.
Okay. Any other reports? Okay, hearing none, brings us to reading of legislation. Michelle?
Reading legislation, there is no legislation for first reading. Legislation for second reading, Resolution 3879 for second reading, resolution establishing a temporary moratorium on vape and smoke establishments or shops within the city of Bowling Green. Ordinance 9264 for second reading, ordinance amending and adopting Chapter 33 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio regarding employment policies. Ordinance 9265 for second reading, ordinance accepting easement for right-of-way purposes from Dayspring Assembly of God. Legislation for third reading, ordinance 9262 for third reading, ordinance authorizing the Utilities Director to enter into contracts for the sale of vehicles and equipment.
I move to adopt ordinance 9262.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle?
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odoricio,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9262 is adopted.
Ordinance 9260 comes off the table automatically.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I move to adopt Ordinance 9260.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I mean, I can start. I already did a lot of talking on this subject this evening. I will restate my plea that colleagues really focus tonight on the community benefit of rezoning this property, or the lack thereof, and the rezoning request relation to our city's comprehensive plan. To me, there is a clear community benefit here. A property that has been vacant for more than 30 years will be returned to productive use in a neighborhood that our future land use plan targets for redevelopment. The facade of a historic property, one of the oldest on that stretch of West Worcester, property with significance to our city's history, will be preserved, all without really increasing the intensity of uses already permitted by right in this neighborhood. So to me, this 2-unit dwelling use is simply not different in character or intensity to those uses already present nearby. Exhibit C to the Planning Department staff report shows us the various 1, 2, and even multi-unit residences on this stretch of West Worcester today. And then by right today, under PR district zoning, the existing zoning, the property could be converted to a bed and breakfast, to a retail space, to professional offices, probably with more disruption to the neighborhood. The property could also be converted under existing zoning to a conditional 2-unit ADU, a 2-unit dwelling. So I believe that our community benefits when a deteriorating historic property that has sat empty for 30 years is returned to productive use. And for these reasons, I intend to vote for the ordinance.
Okay. Other discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. O'Dorisio.
I've heard from a number of people on this issue. I've had 2 people in support of it. I've had 8 or 9 people opposed to it. I personally support duplexes. There's many of my neighbors live in duplexes. I think increasing the density of housing in Bowling Green is great. But we just had this discussion less than 2 years ago. The pedestrian residential district and many of the community members within it were adamantly opposed to duplexes, specifically in this neighborhood. As a council, we had these discussions. We met with the community members. We were responsive to the community, and we removed the ability to put duplexes in the pedestrian residential district less than 2 years ago. So I do not favor spot zoning one building to oppose what the community itself spoke on. So although I personally feel fine about duplexes, the community and this neighborhood in particular was opposed to duplexes, and as a representative of Bowling Green, I have to vote with the will of the community. So I will be opposed to this.
I just want to say, in case people couldn't hear it, I was not laughing at what Joel was saying. I was laughing at Miss Phipps' phone because Lady Gaga was playing Poker Face.
Same.
Anyone else?
Mr. President, I want to preface by saying that I was not on council with the overhaul of the zoning code that happened in '23. And I do think that everyone on this council needs to have a pat on the back for that zoning code and the time it took for that to happen. I spent a lot of time on this, looking at the 3 angles that affected it, whether it be zoning, housing, or the historic aspect of it. And it was a really horrible game of rock, paper, scissors in my head. But I do have to agree that I think there is a benefit for the community in this. And I want to thank everyone that took the time to reach out to me and sat with me. I do think I lean more towards yes on this. So thank you.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Robinette?
After considering all of the the input we've had over the last few weeks and especially this evening, I still find myself deferring towards the zoning code that we all work so hard on. And I do not agree that this particular request rises to the level that would persuade me to change that code at this time. I think we've got to respect the work we did 18, 24 months ago, and I'll be voting no.
All right. Anybody else before we call the vote?
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold?
I've been doing this for quite a while, and I can tell you that this particular ordinance ranks right up there with, there's compelling reasons both ways. A lot of times we have easy ordinances and the vote's very clear. This one is not in that category. I won't, out of community concern, I won't spend 10 minutes arguing both positive and negative on this, although I'm sure each of us could. I just want to narrow it down to a couple points. One is I want to be very clear that there are no villains here. The zoning code, adhering to the zoning code is not a villain. The procedure, the process that we're going through is not a villain. We have the zoning code that we did spend, a lot of people spent a lot of time on, that has a provision that we are utilizing right now. So we're not violating the zoning code to be talking about exceptions. That's built in. So that's not a villain. And most assuredly, Anissa is not a villain. There are a few people that came precipitously close to categorizing her that way, and I want to let you know that that does not hold with me. She has done everything by the book. She has had a concern for the community. She's gone above and beyond, and I think that we should appreciate the efforts that she has put forth to try and make something of a property that was neglected for so long. And as far as how I'm going to vote, I guess we'll find out soon. I still am not completely sure how I'm going to vote. And the reason for that is not that I'm wishy-washy, because anyone that knows me knows that I'm not that way. Although no, I'm just kidding. There's good reason to vote in favor or opposed to it. Rachel brought up some good points, as she usually does. And for me, if there is a yes vote or a no vote, it's by the thinnest of margins. And I think what I keep coming back to is there's a lot of arguments that have been made that aren't really strong arguments. But if you boil it all down, which is what we do, if you boil it all down, the point of community benefit, but also neighborhood concerns, and then the default is somebody that was on council many years ago, gave us some sage advice last year or so ago, and she said that when it comes to zoning issues, there had to be a compelling reason to go against the zoning. So the question is does this fall into the category of compelling reason? And I'll just cut it off at that and let others speak if they wish. But I did want to thank Anissa for all of her efforts.
Anybody else?
Mr. President, If we
Mr.
end this
Dennis.
meeting too early, I got to get my 4-year-old to eat vegetables, so I'm going to go ahead and give a fairly long remark, hopefully not to outdo Bill. I live in these neighborhoods. I've got a triplex right across the street from my house. In fact, I can see 3 or 4 triplexes from my house, Eric, as you very well know. I understand the issues that come with that, trash, noise, parking, traffic, some late night gatherings that occasionally get a little bit out of control. It does happen, and particularly when you're dealing with rental properties, there's a high turnover, and it makes it difficult to maybe get to know your neighbors as well as you would like. That being said, these issues are not limited to duplexes. They're not even limited to rental properties, frankly. I think we all agree that we always can do a better job enforcing the regulations we have that address these negative externalities. For me personally, this was a very close call. It is a very close call. There are good arguments on both sides. I have a deep respect for people on both sides who have come to speak about this issue. At the end of the day, we do have a shortage of housing in this community. And as a result of that lack of supply, at least in part, housing is not affordable for many of the constituents who we represent. And some constituents, or some that we would represent if they could afford to live here. I am in favor of providing more opportunity for people to create gentle density. I think we do need to make sure that things like noise, the other items I mentioned, are being addressed when they come up. I don't think that prohibiting more than one unit on a parcel is necessarily the best way to do that. And at the end of the day, I do appreciate the investment that Anissa has made in her neighborhood. And I do think that for the foreseeable future, she will be a good steward of this property. So I intend to vote in favor of the rezoning request for those reasons.
Anybody have anything else to add? I'll keep my comment brief because Jeff and Bill have already touched on the thing that weighed most on me, and that was so many factors to consider. And so I intentionally, when people would ask me how I felt about this, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to influence the way that anyone else was going to vote on this. But, you know, depending on if you're coming at it from a need for housing or historic preservation or the sacredness of the zoning code or neighborhoods and density, and there are just so many different factors that played into it, but I pulled mine out of the hat and I'm ready to go if everybody else is.
Game time?
Okay. All right. Could you call the roll, please?
All right. Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Odericio,
No.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
No.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold.
Well, guess my vote doesn't really matter.
Your
I'll
vote always matters.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I'll vote yes and no. I will vote, I'll vote yes.
Okay. So ordinance 9260 is adopted. Is there any other business to come before council this evening? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Adjourned.